For thousands of years, African nature was in perfect balance. Humans and animals all coexisted in peace. Food was plentiful. They either ate the vegetation or each other. Hunting with bow and arrows, the local tribes only took what they needed to survive. Then, white men came with their big guns. Now, wildlife was shot for furs, for ivory, and many just for sport. In the 19th century alone, these great hunters killed an estimated 20 million animals. In 1898, when wildlife only existed in isolated pockets of the country, President Kruger opened the first wildlife game reserve. This was not meant for conservation, but simply to increase the number of game available for hunting. Major Stevenson Hamilton became the first park warden. He worked for 40 years to develop the reserve into Kruger National Park, which now is larger than Israel. Today, the wildlife is thriving. A large number of many different species are found in the park, but most tourists from around the world come especially to see the Big Five. These majestic creatures also continue to be the focus for rich trophy hunters who pay big sums of money for the privilege of shooting them. Luckily, the large majority now only get shot by cameras. But success comes with its own problems.
It's especially poaching. It's been going on for quite a long time. And then at the moment, the Kruger Park, they came up with another idea to increase especially the policing around the park. We used to have the field rangers. They were patrolling, but now they introduce also the police and armed force just to make sure they tighten up especially the law, especially around the park, because it happened especially around Mozambique, especially among the border.
In the 60s and 70s, electric fences were erected around the park to protect animals as well as people. However, this disrupted previous migratory patterns. Elephants rip up and break many trees during feeding. When they could migrate, the vegetation had time to recover. But the available land area has not been able to support their increasing numbers, causing a loss of habitat for several other species. Over the years, park management has tried various solutions.
Contraceptives to reduce especially the breeding of elephant, but it didn't work. So it was too costly also for the Kruger Park.
Another solution, culling of these giants, was met with such a public outcry that it had to be reconsidered.
The overcrowding of elephants in the park. So at the moment, it's quite a huge area, the Kruger Park, because if you look at the size, it's almost about 2.2 million hectares. But now the Kruger Park, they came up with another idea just to make sure they extend the Kruger Park. So they made a transfrontier with Mozambique. So they removed the boundary fence which separate Kruger Park and Mozambique just to make sure the elephant, they have broad enough area to split.
The resolution of these problems may lie in further expansion of the park into Mozambique, Zimbabwe, the western private wildlife reserves, and the opening of fences in these areas. Hopes are that someday it will extend all the way to the Indian Ocean, which will give Kruger Transfrontier Park an area larger than Portugal. This would benefit not only the wildlife, which can migrate once again, but it will also create jobs for local people in conservation and tourism. Wild animals will never again be able to roam freely across all of Africa, but at least in a national park they can live free and regain the natural balance they enjoyed for thousands of years.
Rise up this morning.